Welcome back everybody, and what I'm going to be talking about today is my Hadrian's Wall kit loadout. Right then, so following my Hadrian's Wall walk video, a lot of people asked for me to talk through the kit I used during my walk, so that's the aim of this video then. I'm just going to talk through what clothing and kit I used, what worked and what didn't. Okay, clothing that I used then. So first thing, going from head to toe, I just wore one of my normal caps, one of the logoed up caps. I think a baseball cap's a great bit of kit for all sorts of weathers. When you're actually walking, you don't overheat wearing it, and it's going to keep the sun out of your eyes and the rain off your face. I used a pair of Gators Raptors sunglasses. These are my normal ones that I've used for all sorts of stuff, and it was quite sunny for quite a bit of the route, so I did use them quite a bit. So clothing wise then, I used a lightweight base layer t-shirt, really important to be able to wick that sweat away from your body. So I used that, and also did use it on its own quite a bit because it was quite hot for quite a bit of the walk. Jacket wise, when it was a little bit cooler, I used this jacket. This is an Outdoor Research Ferocity jacket. Basically it's quite a lightweight windproof layer, and you'll notice it's in kind of, you know, toned down green and brown colours. What I wanted to do is not walk around wearing, you know, military kit, camouflage gear or whatever, but this is actually, you know, works quite well. As you look around the foliage and stuff around me, it will blend in at a distance quite well, and that was a point of a lot of stuff that I was wearing. I had no bright colours and stuff, which I'll talk a little bit about later as well. Okay, trousers. I wore a pair of Montane trousers, grey and black trousers. Again, you know, blending fairly well with the environment without looking military. I was wearing my watch, Garmin Instinct Tactical watch, which is great for checking grid references and stuff. I've used that in all sorts of stuff. I'll do a separate review on that at some point, but that's a really nice bit of kit for outdoors use. Most obvious bit of kit then that I'm wearing here is this chest pack. So this is a new thing that basically I just bought off a friend of mine, Carl. These are available mainly in the USA. You can't really get them in the UK very much, but this is made by a company called Ribs, and I thought I'd give it a shot, you know, so a different way of carrying kit. I've got the other chest rig, but I thought I'd give this a throw, try it out, and it worked really well. It's super lightweight and it can carry lots of good kit within it. Last thing then is my boots. So I wore a pair of Handwag Banks boots, and they were quite new, so I hadn't worn them that much, which is kind of breaking a cardinal sin, you know, cardinal rule of mine. But they worked really well, really comfortable, nice and lightweight, and you know, my feet fared really well for that entire distance of 84 miles. So this is the Ribs front pack, really lightweight but nice and durable. So it's broken down into two pieces, and it's got a zip on the front. So you can actually, it's like a split front rig instead of having to throw it over the top of your head. On the right hand side then, what I've got is basically navigation and a few snacks. So I had my map, and yes, this isn't the map I use, this is a Brecon Beacons map. What I actually did with my map though, is I took printouts of the route off the Ordnance Survey, because I've got an Ordnance Survey subscription, and basically just taped them together for the entire length of the route and just folded it as I needed it. Because if you was to buy maps, full-size maps for the whole route, you'd need to buy sort of 6 or 7 maps, so it'd be a lot more bulk to carry. But that's how I had it in this kind of map case, and then I had it secured to the zipper. One thing that is kind of missing from this, there's no kind of loops or anything to attach your kit to, so you've got to attach it to the zipper if you need to attach anything. But maps in there, and then in this little external pocket, I've got my silver compass. So I've basically got my navigation kit there ready to go, and then in one of the internal pockets, they've got little mesh pockets on the inside, I've got a few snack bars, and basically I had about 3 snack bars per day to eat on the move, so I have them there ready to go, and that all fits in that side. And then in the left hand side, as I'm wearing it then, what I've got is basically everything else that I wanted to carry and have ready to hand. So, talking of hands, a pair of gloves, a snud. These are great, obviously, for, you know, keeping the warmth in, and you can just literally roll them down to a tiny little ball, stuff them in your pocket. So they're a great bit of kit for the outdoors. And then what I had is insect repellent and a mozzie head net. I didn't get too bothered with bugs and stuff out there. A little bit sometimes in the evenings, but you know, it's always good to have those on you. They don't really weigh much at all. And then in this pocket here, I've got my admin line. So anyone that's been watching any of my videos will be familiar with this. And what I've got is basically a knife, a whistle, a spare torch and a lighter. And that's the full contents of the pack that I was carrying. So this is the bulk of my gear that I carried on my walk then. This weighed 37 pounds all up. That's including 5 days food and 2 litres of water and everything else that I needed for, you know, living for 5 days. The pack itself then is a Cribgock Alpine Raptor, and I got that from the Bug Out, a shop there that sells loads of good kit for prepping and outdoors. I'll put a link in the description for that. Now, this bag, I really did like it. It's the right sort of size that I like, basically. It's the sort of size I normally go for, about 45 litres or so, which means you've kind of got enough space to carry more than a couple of days worth of gear, but it means you've kind of got to scale down a little bit. I like to do that. I like to travel nice and light. There are some bits and pieces that I've got some issues with the bag. I won't do a full review on this, but I will mention it as I go through the things that I did like and things I didn't like with the bag. But like I say, I'll do a full review on this at another point. So on the external parts of the bag then, so what I did is I added this external Blackhawk water bottle pouch, and I had my litre, normal army issue water bottle there, with my old metal mug, and inside there I've also got half a J cloth as well too. The reason being is that stops your water bottle rattling around, so when that's in there there's no movement whatsoever from the water bottle, and it also obviously serves to help clean your water bottle out, sorry, your mug out after you've used it. On this side then, what I really like, one of the things I really like about this bag is these external sort of expandable pockets, and they've basically got zips, and these basically squish down to nothing when you've got nothing in them, but then they expand out, so you've got the option of actually packing stuff that you want to get to quickly. And then this side then, what I've got, this is a wind shirt. It's a Cierzo shirt from TRC Outdoors. So what I use that for is when I had a stop, I'd throw that on if it was a bit of a windy, if it was a bit cooler day, just to keep the wind chill off me. And I use it on the mountains quite a bit. So also on this side, what I've got is my my pee bottle. So basically, you know, when you're in your bivvy at night, you know, and if it is cold, it's worth having something like this. You know, guys out there, you'll know, getting up in the middle of the night when it's freezing cold, if it's raining, it's not ideal. And I've got that in the external pocket because I don't really want that to go with the rest of my stuff inside. That makes sense to have it there. I've also got a small trowel in case I need to dig a hole to go to the toilet. And that's all that's in this external pocket here. You can see there's some small expandable side pockets as well. And what I have is my little thermal mug, the Life Venture one, which I think is a great bit of kit. You make a brew in the morning and it keeps it warm for a good couple of hours. So when you're on your walk, you know, you can stop and you don't even need to get your brew kit out. You're ready to go. So that's that side there. On this side here then, on the expanding pocket, what you've got, first thing out then, so it's really important, is my first aid kit. There we go. So within that, I've got normal first aid stuff, you know, your plasters, you know, painkillers, things like that. But we've also put a blister kit in there, just to make sure I'm going to keep my feet in good maintenance as I'm walking through the hike. Next thing I've got in here then is my shelter. So this is a Rab Seal Tarp 1. So a fairly compact sized shelter. So it's not massive, but it's definitely big enough for one person and your kit getting in there at night. And what I've got attached to this already good to go on all the corners is the jungle knots from TRC Outdoors, which are, you know, a good bit of kit there. And within that pouch I've also got 6 pegs as well. So that's the MSR tent stakes. They're a great bit of kit, nice and lightweight. I've had them for a few years now and they're still good to go. So quite a compact little package there for my shelter. So that's the external pouch on that side covered. Right then, top pouch then, what we've got. Well, before I go into the top pouch, I'll just note this bit here. So I've got an emergency light on the back here. This is by Nightcore. I stuck that on just as a sort of emergency thing in case I needed it, but actually it did come in really useful, especially on the first night where I was walking. in sort of low light and dark hours for a few hours. You are walking down paths and roads quite a bit, so that became a good safety feature. And one thing I wished I'd taken was a luminous marker panel for the sort of lower lights rather than at night time when I was walking down the roads. Okay, so that did come in quite useful actually. So top flap itself here, then you'll notice, so this is one of the things that kind of annoyed me a bit about this bag. This load lifter strap, or what I'm going to call it, the whole loop, kind of digs in the back of your head and the back of your neck as you're walking, and I found that quite annoying. So luckily I had this thing called an S-bean. It was like a little mini carabiner clip, and what I did is I bodged a piece of paracord so I could basically keep that from bouncing and rubbing against my neck as I'm walking, so that was quite handy. But if that had been just left as it was, I think that would have annoyed me for the whole route of the trip. So in the top flap then, open it up here, this is what I've got in the top flap. So I've got a waterproof bag with all my sort of electronics and stuff that I need to keep waterproof. So biodegradable toilet roll, power bank and leads, obviously really important if you're going away for a few days to keep your comms going. I've got a spare lighter. Then I've got 6 AAA batteries, so they're to be used. These are the lithium ones as well. Whoops, lithium ones as well that last a bit longer, so they're to be used with my head torch. Then I've got a plug so I can recharge that power bank if need be, and I did actually use that. If you ever get to the point power point, that's going to be really handy. Then I've got a ferro rod and striker. Obviously it doesn't need to be waterproof, that, but it's just basically a small item. I thought I'd put it in there to keep it sort of neat and tidy. And then I've got another means of starting fire, just a packet of the Windproof matches that you get in a ration pack. So that's all held together in a waterproof bag there. Some paracord. I mean, that always comes in handy, doesn't it? Cord's always handy when you're out doing stuff outdoors, so that just goes in there regardless. I've then got my water purification stuff. So Sawyer mini filter, which is in there. Just take that band off. So I've got my normal Sawyer mini filter, and I've done a review on this. I'll put it in the link. And then I've got a bigger bag that's easier to fill up, the Knock Outdoors bag. So that's all held together with a bungee, and in conjunction with that I've got some water purification tablets as well, just to double tap it if I need to, if I feel the need to actually really make sure my water source is safe to drink. Okay, next thing in there is just a plastic bag, so it's got a Ziploc bag, and that's for my rubbish. Really important to make sure you don't drop anything when you're outdoors walking. Then I've got my MSR pocket rocket, and I've got that in here just because it's a small item. I don't want it in my main compartment sort of like rattling around with everything else. It's just kind of tucked away in the top there. Then I've got a small repair kit here. I'm not going to go through the contents in detail, but basically I've got some repair tape, a sewing kit, some bungees, some super glue and some cord. Okay, that's just held together in that little pack. Okay, head torch. Really important to have a head torch, as we all know when you're outdoors. If you haven't got one of these, you need to get one if you're doing outdoor stuff. And what I've got is this is set on red light straight away. So when I turn it on, it's just going to go straight to red light in case I'm in an area, because I was wild camping in an area you're not supposed to wild camp. So that it's just lower key, less light, you know, if I need to actually get any light out. But, you know, most of the time I don't bother with that. I just do things using the light from the moon or whatever. A spoon, really important obviously to eat your rations with. And then the last thing I've got in here is just one of these packets of tuna. And basically what I did is every day, that was my sort of main bit of my lunch, and then I'd have a couple of snacks whilst I was on the move as well. So I carried 5 of these, and the first one, you know, the one for the day that I'm walking, I'll put it in there so it's easy to get to, so I don't have to go into my bag to get it every day. So that's all stuff from the top flap there then. You'll also notice on the front of the pack then, I've got this little pouch here. Now this in here was a new item that I was trialling. So this is a Garmin InReach Mini, and I basically bought this for an upcoming trip I've got going to Alaska, just as a safety device, and I used it on this trip, not really as a safety device, but just to trial it. There was some pros and cons about that, but I won't go into detail with that right now. The Garmin InReach then, it comes with this little carabiner thing. Personally, I think it would be quite poor to just clip that on and have it swinging around and bouncing around. So what I wanted to do is just have it a bit more secure, and I bought this little pouch and just had it stuck in there rather than bouncing around on the external part of my rucksack. On the other shoulder strap then, I've got my hydration bladder tube. So inside here I've got a litre of water as well as the water bottle, so I was carrying 2 litres of water, so that's easier to get to, and then that one I can use to replenish it if I need to. Also a water bottle is easier to kind of drink at night when you're in your bivvy. So that's the external parts of the rucksack covered. I didn't actually use the little waist pack pouches on the waist strap. These aren't particularly great, I've got to say. They're kind of really small. They're not expandable or anything like that. They'll be okay for a few small items, but they're not that brilliant. So I didn't bother with those because I had the chest pack. So going into the main compartment of the bag then, you've got 2 compression straps here, and then you've got a snow lock and a sleeve there. You'll notice there then the first thing I'm going to come across is a Bergen liner. Really, really important to keep your kit nice and waterproof throughout. Right, and the first thing I'm going to come across is this, another small little waterproof bag. So in here I've got a pair of gloves and a woolly hat. So these are my spare gloves, these are waterproof ones as well. And then I've got a woolly hat to wear in the evenings when it gets colder, and that's all that's in that bag there. Next thing I've got then is all my rations for the 5 days. So within these 2 bags then I've got 10 boiling bags, so 1 for breakfast, 1 for evening meal, and I've got a mixture of army issue rations and some of the dehydrated ones as well. Also in there I've got a load of snack bars, so enough for a couple of days, 2 to 3 a day, and I've got a packet of super noodles, so that's just a bit of a spare, and you can use that to bolster up the main rations as well if you just kind of chuck them all together in your mug. And then I've got 10 3-in-1 coffees. So the 3-in-1 coffees are really good because they cut down on how much rubbish you're creating, so there's less mess and less stuff to tidy up and carry. And that's basically all my food for 5 days right there. And the reason why there's at the top there is because that's a fairly big bit of bulk of weight, so it was in between my shoulder blades at the top of the pack. Okay, next thing I've got coming out of here then, so something that's very important to have to hand is my waterproof jacket. So this is a Rab Meridian waterproof jacket. Really, really good bit of kit. Now I've used this quite a bit on the mountains. Folds down nice and small. That's the jacket itself there then, and it's really, really good in terms of weather protection. So I really rate that. Next thing I've got is my gas canister then, so I'll just carry just one fairly big gas canister, and that lasted me no problems for the 5 days. So that's what I use to cook all my brews, all my food, etc. with my pocket rocket. Next thing in here then is my basically wash kit, hygiene kit, whatever you want to call it. And really the main sort of function of this is looking after my teeth. So I've got a toothbrush in there, toothpaste, I've also got some dental floss in there. There's a small towel in a little waterproof, basically homemade waterproof packet. And then I've got some wet wipes inside there too. Obviously just for cleaning yourself up a little bit when you need to. But as you've probably noticed there's not that much in there. I've not bothered with soap. I ain't bothered with deodorant because I'm not trying to impress anyone when I'm out walking on the hills, am I? So, unlike some Marines out there, I don't need to kind of sort my hair out or smell nice. So that's all I need for my wash kit. Okay, next thing in here then is, this is all my spare clothing. Okay, so this is in another separate dry bag. This is again from TRC Outdoors in that pretty cool looking digital night camo. So going in here then, first thing I'm going to pull out will be my warm jacket. So this is an Arc'teryx jacket. I can't remember what model it is, but it's basically quite a lightweight warm jacket, and that worked fine. Really nice sort of mid-weight warmth. Then what I've got is a spare t-shirt. So I only took one spare t-shirt and I found that's all I needed. I I don't really bother with changing my clothes. Again, I'm not trying to impress anyone while I'm out on the hills. I don't care if I smell. But you know, after a couple of days, it's probably a nice idea to change into something fresh. Or if you do get totally saturated for whatever reason, it's good to have a spare layer. So that's what that is there. I've then got quite a lightweight fleece jumper, half zip. So that's a Rab one. Again, quite a lightweight one, but you can notice here that everything's designed to keep the weight down. But a nice bit of kit to put on when you get into your sleeping bag at night. And also if the temperature drops during the day, you've got an option there of layering up a little bit. I didn't need to use that during the day because it was really warm. Okay, really important bit of kit left in here then is socks. So I basically work off wearing one pair of socks a day, and I change them every day. You need to keep your feet in good nick. So I had, because I was doing 5 days, I was wearing obviously the first pair on day one, and I've got a spare pair for every other day. So that's the socks there. And then last thing in here is some foot powder, and I've put it in a plastic bag because sometimes the foot powder escapes out the packet, or if it does burst or whatever out the tube, you don't want that getting amongst all your clothes, do you really? Because this is my Kota foot powder as well, which stinks once it gets on, you know, on anything else. So that's good for athlete's foot, preventing athlete's foot and stuff, but you don't want it basically getting amongst all the rest of your kit. Okay, going into the main part again then. What I've got is a bivvy bag. So this is a mountain equipment bivvy bag. You see it's a lot smaller, folds down a lot smaller than the Army issue ones, but you know, it costs a lot more as well. But that worked really well. Then I've got my roll mat. So this is a multi-mat roll mat. This is the one I used. It folds down nice and compact, but it wasn't brilliant. What I did find is it did deflate a couple of times. I couldn't find any holes in it, so I think it may have a problem with a valve. So I wouldn't actually recommend this. This is one bit of kit that didn't work that brilliant for me. Last thing then, really important bit of kit is your sleeping bag. So this is a Robbins Serac 300. It's a down sleeping bag. Obviously there's you know, pros and cons to down. You can't get down wet. Luckily it didn't really rain much whilst I was out. It only rained on the last day in fact. But it's much lighter and more compact than carrying a synthetic sleeping bag. I tend to go more for synthetics, but you know, in the summer carrying something like this is going to keep your weight really down, and it's going to make sure your pack's nice and compact. So that's the sleeping bag I used. So that is all the gear that I carried there. There's nothing else left in there whatsoever, and all that weighed, that pack itself weighed 37 pounds, including 2 litres of water and 5 days food. So then the majority of that kit worked really well for me, especially the boots. The fact that I'd only just bought those handmade boots very recently, they were super comfortable during the walk, so I was quite impressed with those. There was a couple of items that didn't perform as well as I expected them to. The first one was the Garmin InReach Mini. However, I bought this only a few days before I did the hike, and it wasn't planned. It's just one of those things that happened. I've actually got this for something else that's up and coming, but it ended up, you know, being bought lastminute.com. So I didn't have a lot of time to do research on how to use this and look into the sort of functions and stuff very much. But the battery ran out on this 2.5 days into the hike, which was I'm not very impressed with, to be honest, because it's meant to last, you know, 5 to 6 days sort of thing. That's what I've seen on videos on YouTube. So I'm going to look further into the functions and stuff on this to see if it's something I didn't do right, possibly, and try and work it out. If anyone's got any sort of suggestions on comments on that sort of thing, the battery life on these things, let me know in the comment section. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, I mentioned it when I was talking through the kit, this thing here, the multi-mat. It's a real shame because it's really compact. It's a really compact sleeping mat, really, for the price especially, but I guess that's the reason, the price. It deflated on me, you know, a couple of nights, and I couldn't find a hole in it. I think it may just be the valve, so not too impressed with that. That's it really for the kit that I used. However, there's a couple of items that I wished I'd kind of brought with me, and I did mention one of them. Firstly, I wish I brought a luminous panel for my Bergen, okay, for my rucksack. So when you're walking down the route, quite a lot of the time you're on roads, and it's quite narrow footpaths on some of it, and sometimes you're on the verge. of the road, and you've got some big vehicles, HGVs and stuff coming past you. Personally, I would have felt a lot safer if I'd had a luminous panel on my Bergen. Secondly, I would have wanted to wear a sort of brightly coloured top as well for oncoming traffic, because my whole reason for wearing this kind of coloured clothing is to keep sort of low-key toned, low-tone colours. Because I'm stealth camping in areas you're not supposed to stealth camp, camp out basically. But that then works against you. If you're camouflaged against your background and you've got a vehicle coming towards you, it's not ideal, is it? So I would have probably had some sort of bright top that I could have taken off before I went into a stealth camp sort of area. The third thing is just money. So I took 20 quid with me in two £10 notes, which I thought, you know, it's always a good idea to take some cash with you for whatever you're doing. However, what I didn't realise is there wasn't going to be any shops en route, really, at all. So I couldn't break that money down, and I couldn't just walk in a shop and get, you know, 2 cans of Coke or something and get the change. What they've got is honesty boxes, and these little honesty shop things I showed one of them on the video, where you can't really get any change for what you're buying. So if you want a bottle of water, you know, you don't really want to be wasting 10 quid on a bottle of water, do you? It's all right kind of giving a bit of a tip, but if you buy 2 bottles of water for 10 quid, that's all your money gone in a wanna. So what I would suggest is take a good handful of change with you. So take a whole load of pound coins, maybe take, you know, a note as well, just in case you get a chance to break it down. But yeah, take a whole load of pound coins with you, maybe 50p pieces, stuff like that. Because it's, even though I plan to go self-sufficient with all the kit I took with me, food and water, there's nothing like a nice cold drink of water from a fridge when you're boiling hot. You know, it's a godsend, isn't it? You don't want to be stealing that, that's flipping wrong. But also you don't want to be paying 10 quid for that bottle of water. So it's a good idea to take some change. And basically, that's just a couple of things that I wish I'd taken with me. Not a lot, but for anyone that's planning to do it, a couple of good ideas there for you. So that's everything mentioned now. That's my kit loadout for the Hadrian's Wall walk. Hope those of you that asked for this video got something out of it. Put any comments, opinions and stuff in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and as always, stay prepared.